shifting to outside, just for something different. Try and get out of the sun. But so I don't know what I am. I don't like labels. So I think the labels are half the problem. I think once you label someone, people either are drawn to a label or they're repelled by a label. So I watched another video from that guy from Psychopharm called What is Psychopathy? And the Psychopathy Checklist, Descriptors and Antisocial Personality Disorder from this guy at Psychopharm. So the beginning is actually a clip from a psychopath, like a murderer, serial killer or whatever. I can't remember who it was. But he's saying he depersonalizes another person and views them as an object instead of a living human being. And then this checklist is out of The Mask of Sanity, which is Hervey M. Cleckley from 1941, who studied a heap of criminals, and there was a small subsection that were particularly callous and not emotional. And they had no attachment to people and no fear of being caught or punished. And that's what he basically classified as a psychopath back then. And there was 16 descriptors that he put in. So I'm just going to go through the 16 descriptors because, for one thing, I know for a fact that there's a lot of traumatized people out there who don't know they're traumatized. I couldn't remember anything until last year when I was 47, okay? I knew stuff had happened. I couldn't remember anything until I was 47, and everything seemed to collapse and the stress got so much that I think things started to come up. Anyway, for whatever reason, I know for a fact that there's a lot of people out there who have had some kind of trauma in their childhood. They have no idea, and they're walking around with trauma within them. So this is why I'm going to read through this. You could ask anyone that knew me, they would have said that I was a beautiful, loving, kind, generous, empathetic, helpful. People would say I'm too trusting, I'm too nice, right? Too nice? Is there such a thing? Yes, there is, when you don't know when to pull back because you've got no feelings, right? So you just pour it on really thick to cover all your bases because you're like, well, if I'm really, really, really nice to this person, they're not going to know that I have nothing inside, okay? So the first one is a superficial charm and good intelligence. I'm not saying I'm intelligent, but I've got 2 diplomas voluntarily. You know, I've held down some high pressure jobs. So I'd say I'm not, brilliant, but I'm not dumb, okay? And I've got quite a good grasp of the English language, which I think is lucky, but I think that's from my reading. And superficial charm. I do have the gift of the gab. People have told me that. Guys, especially when they're chatting you at the pub, right? And then you go somewhere else and they're like, I've heard them. Oh, she's just got the gift of the gab, because they think they're in. It's like, well, I'm just giving you what you want, mate. Anyway, well, I'm not giving him what he wants, but you know what I mean? I'm saying what he wants to hear. And then when I leave, he's like, hang on. I'm like, no. I was just pretending to be whatever you wanted me to be. Absence of delusions and other signs of rational thinking. I'm not sure about this one, as in now everything's backwards, right? So delusions is that delusions of grandeur, which I probably have had. And then there's paranoid delusions, which I know I have had too. But and then there's other signs of rational thinking. I am a very rational thinker. I overlogic everything and I overthink everything. And I think of every possible scenario. And now I know why. Because I don't know what people are going to do. So I have to try and hypothesize every single possible outcome without having the emotional clarity to know what someone's actually going to do. Right? Because I can't predict it because I don't have the feelings. So the absence of delusions, I'm not sure about that one. With the paranoia, yeah, I'm thinking it's completely different to what I actually thought it was. I think I've always just been scared of myself and what I couldn't suss out, what I couldn't get my head around. And if I couldn't get my head around something, I would displace myself from the situation, because I'd be like, well, if that's too hard to figure out, I'm not going to try and figure it out. I'll go somewhere else and figure something else out, or stay by myself. Absence of nervousness and other psychoneurotic manifestations. And I think this is part of my BPD. Like, I can just have different personalities. Well, it's not BPD now, but yeah, what I thought was different personalities kick in when I need to be, and I can be very confident. I think if I'm put in a situation where I am nervous, I overcompensate, and then I seem to be super confident. But it's just because I'm overcompensating, probably because I am in a new situation and I'm trying to suss it out. And if I don't know, be loud, become the center of attention, maybe it draws information out of people, and maybe it helps me suss out where they are on the scale of things. I'm not sure, but like I said, everything's different now. Unreliability. Yeah. I was usually pretty reliable all the time, but I think that now is that whole wanting to do the right thing and making someone think that, But I have had times in my life where I have been incredibly unreliable, like when I was on the meth and stuff. Yeah, so I am capable of being very unreliable in the right circumstances, in the right headspace, I suppose. I used to always feel really bad if I let someone down, but I think that now is me going, you didn't suss that out right, and then I'd be like, what did I do wrong? Why don't they like me? And then I'd overthink it, right? And I always thought that this was me being self-conscious and having a low self-esteem. No, it's the opposite. I was so grandiose that I couldn't believe that I couldn't understand why someone would be treating me in a way that wasn't nice, because I am super nice, right? And everyone's supposed to like me, because people aren't supposed to see that I am not the person I am. So I'd overthink it. And the same thing, if I couldn't suss them out and win them over, I'd cut them off. But I'd make an excuse and be like, no, they're a cunt. But it's because I couldn't trick them, right? Or something? I don't know. Untruthfulness and insincerity. Well, this has taken on a whole new thing too now, because I always thought I wore my heart on my sleeve and told too much information, and I don't know why I was... Now I'm wondering if that was something more so that you liking making people uncomfortable and stuff, but I'm not sure. I mean, basically untruthful and insincere. Like, if I was never coming from a place of genuine sincerity because I didn't actually know why I was doing something, then that is just total, like, I'm lying to myself and lying to everybody else. But yeah. Lack of remorse to shame. Well, that's, like I said now, it's like, is it remorse? Am I just ashamed of some things because someone's found me out? And someone knows something about me that's a weakness and I don't want them to know that? Or someone has seen a side of me that has not been a correct sort of behaviour, and they're doubting my personality. And see, that's maybe the thing with cutting people off too, is that shame, like shamelessness, as in I just go, see you later, no shame, no nothing. Like, I don't know. I'm just trying to reflect on this, because seriously, if you'd known me, you wouldn't have thought I was a psychopath or in any way, shape or form these kind of things. And it means I didn't know. No one else knew. And it just means that there's a lot of people like me out there walking around, because I know that there's been a lot of trauma. So, you say kind of, I've been on this whole, watch out for narcissists. But seriously, you should be watching out for the psychopaths, because I think there are a lot of psychos out there that don't even know. And they actually think the opposite. They think they're really good people. Really. Like I did. I thought I was a really nice person. And I think everybody else kind of did too. Anyway, inadequately motivated antisocial behaviour. I have been antisocial, as in, I don't know about this, inadequately motivated. I am very loud. I do like to embarrass people. I know that people have always been, lower your voice, you're too loud, but I'm also, can kind of say things sometimes and it catches people off guard. And I think I've obviously done that on purpose now as well, as a gauging mechanism and maybe as a power play. But I would say something that's a bit out there in a setting that was when I was aware that I was probably around people that were going to not handle it. But then I would take them being embarrassed about it or not being able to handle it as a sign of weakness now, I think. That I had made them uncomfortable. And I think it was also a way to test people and their boundaries and see where they were at. Yeah. So I think, antisocial behaviour, seriously, I've done some meth and stuff like this. You can call that antisocial behaviour if you're doing all this really bad stuff. And seriously, when I was on meth, yes, I did tell a lot of lies to, work. You have to. Can't tell your workmates you're on meth. They all knew, but, so you do have to lie to a certain extent. I didn't ever think I liked it, but I didn't care when I was on meth. Meth honestly makes you feel like queen of the universe and you don't give a fuck about anyone. And the longer you're on it, the less you care. Poor judgment and failure to learn by experience. Ding, 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 ding. Seriously. Pathologic egocentricity and incapacity for love. I am realising now that I think I have always thought I was above other people, and this is why I have been so harsh with cutting people off and that, because I am like, you don't make the grade, you're not in my circle anymore. I don't know. It's weird. Incapacity for love, well, definitely. I was single for 12 years, celibate for 8. 3 failed relationships before that. The last one was a narcissistic meth head. So, and now 4 failed relationships after 12 years single and 8 years celibate. So, yes, incapacity for love, most definitely. General poverty in major affective reactions, and this is basically with the whole BPD, everything going back to crying. I honestly think that crying might be a mechanism, has always maybe now been an automatic mechanism to manipulate people, because at a young age, maybe when I cried, somebody had pity on me or went easier on me, or I got something or whatever. But I think maybe it's just been an automatic thing in my head that goes, need to cry now. Because crying is the best way to get out of something or win people over, or I don't know. And it's not like I planned it. These things just come out, but I think it's now a bit different with the crying. Maybe it's when I get to a point where I can't figure someone out and it gets too hard to try and figure them out, so I start to cry. Or I'm in a situation where I don't know how to act because I don't quite know what's expected of me, so I start to cry. Yeah, it makes sense. That's all. General poverty and, yeah, that's that one. Specific loss of insight. Yeah, I can get quite focused on one thing and not really see past it sometimes. Insight as well. I don't know, with the ADD, I have a hard time focusing on anything for too long and always have. Unresponsive in general interpersonal relations. Unresponsiveness in I think this goes back to me as well with the whole shunning people. I can get along with somebody to a certain extent, and then if it's not, I'll stay away from them. And this is obviously having problems with my interpersonal skills, like thinking that I can get along with everybody to a certain point on the surface, but anything deeper than that can become a little bit, I don't know. I'm just bouncing this out there because I'm trying to figure out how this affects me in the person that I was and the person that everybody thought that I was, right? And it's kind of scary to think that I could have been this person my whole life and not realised it, and knowing full well that I had a lot of issues, right? So if anyone was going to figure it out, you'd think that maybe I would, or one of my therapists might have along the line. Anyway, I'll go into this later because I have a theory. Fantastic and uninviting behaviour with drink and sometimes without. I think I do have that, was that whole out there a bit. Fantastic and uninviting behaviour. Just doing things in the wrong setting, probably. A little bit inappropriate or something. I don't know. Suicide threats rarely carried out. I've done that. Not actually saying I'm going to kill myself, but I did say last year, I'll be dead by Christmas. Which I did. As in, it wasn't a lie. By the time Christmas came, I was pretty much emotionally empty and a void. Yeah. So, I think I did die at Christmas, to tell you the truth. Or in the couple of days. Yeah, it was. It was a build-up. Sex life, impersonal, trivial, and poorly integrated. Anyone who's been celibate for 8 years is obviously avoiding some sex life, right? And before that, it was quite trivial after my long-term boyfriend in Perth. So, and poorly integrated, most definitely. Failure to follow any life plan. I used to say this. I'd be like, I do something and then I just get sick of it. It's like I know how to do it and then I'm like, oh, whatever. And I move on to something else. And I've got 2 diplomas. I've had, a number of different careers. I always finish what I start, goal-oriented. But I have had no life plan. And I'll admit to that. I've never wanted to buy a house and settle down and commit and have a debt hanging over my head or anything like that. And I have always been this whole fly by the seat of your pants, Do just change your mind. Spontaneity is what people call it. Oh, I like that you're so spontaneous, Rachel. And I'm like, I'll just do anything to make you think that I'm whatever you want me to be, right? I'm not going to say no. This is the people pleaser, right? Always saying yes to people. Not because I'm a people pleaser, because I'm trying to make people think that I'm a good person. It's the opposite of everything. This is what I'm figuring out. Everything I thought that I was, and everyone thought I was the polar opposite. Hiding in plain sight. That's the scary thing. I had no idea. I knew I had a really fucked up childhood. I knew that I had issues. I have had help my whole life with therapists and all sorts of different stuff. No one's picked this up before now. No one. Not me, not my friends, not anyone. The other thing that's worrying is that, the same stuff happened to most of the people in my family and a lot of families that were around at that same time from my mum's era. It was all going on. Same. You can see it now rolling on with the generations. You'll see what's going on in those families. And if all the kids and grandkids are kind of, or most of them or some of them, that something went down. So it's very common, guys. This is really common. It's how we're raising a lot of children and have been for the last, God knows, century, 2? I don't know. And so this is the thing, right? I'm like, is psychotherapy not being recognised because we have too many sub-syndromes that are classified with labels? Or are all these disorders invented to deliberately keep the psychopaths undiagnosed or misdiagnosed? Should we all really just be saying you're a psychopath instead of saying that you're BPD, NPD, destructive narcissist, covert narcissist, multiple personality disorder, dissociative personality disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, attention deficit disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I mean, seriously, how many labels do you need? And then can you mush all of those labels into just one? And then people aren't like numbers. It's not like statistics. I hate statistics. Who thought up the fucking Z number? Who was so bored? Anyway, yeah, now I've lost my track again. I shouldn't diverge and whinge about stuff. Stop whinging. But yeah, people cannot be quantified. So you can't predict there's just too many factors in a person's life. Every moment is different for everyone. And every second. So you think of how many seconds are in somebody's life. You can't duplicate that ever. So yeah, I just think it's hard to say somebody is this, right? Or someone is that and that and that and that. I mean, if they're all those things, maybe you should be balling them up and making a new classification for all those things, like psychopath. Okay, so was my BPD, which is crying all the time and having deregulated emotions and not having proper control over my emotions at appropriate times, was it actually complete frustration at not being able to fit in? Not being able to figure out other people and what they wanted from me and what I was supposed to be? Or was it a manipulation tactic that was put in place by a false self as a protection or self-defense mechanism when I was young? Like I said before, the crying. Crying is a tool for manipulation or self-pity, nothing more. That's how I see it now when I look back at myself. I was either crying because I didn't know what else to do and I thought it would actually ease me out of a situation, I suppose, or I was crying on my own out of self-pity for the fact that I couldn't figure out life and people. But ultimately I couldn't figure out myself, and I couldn't figure out the loneliness inside of me and why it was so empty all the time. And why I just felt so empty and lonely. And it just makes life feel pointless, and then you just you feel miserable. As in, you're trapped in an empty shell and you don't know why you're so empty, and you are looking for things to fill it up, but there's nothing and there's no one. And you end up withdrawing because you can't fill it up. And I guess sometimes that gets really tiresome trying to fill it up, and you just go, I give up, and you withdraw and go be by yourself because, yeah, it's easier. Animals are easier to understand and maintain than people. See, yeah, and I'm wondering if I was trained to be a pet dog, then there's a part of me that is or was animal-like. And is this why I empathise with animals more than humans and always have? Or is it because animals are so much easier to figure out? Okay. Or I see humans as lesser beings than even plants, creatures, or natural wonders of the earth, or the earth itself. I actually see human beings as being lesser than all of those, and I know I always have. Always. I've always seen nature as being superior to humans, and almost like they have no right to be here. My depression or emptiness was caused by my inability to fit in. Knowing something was going on was enough for me to walk away. This connects with my ability not to read people and their emotions, so I back off as a self-defense mechanism because I can't figure them out, so it's safer for me to not go there, find someone else, or don't go anywhere. But not being able to predict when I was being set up at the beginning, right? And this is that whole not learning lessons and repeating mistakes. So you go into a situation that you probably a normal person might have learnt from a previous mistake and gone, don't go there. You gut, whatever. But I wouldn't do that, right? Because I'm not thinking about what they're going to do to me. I don't know what I'm thinking, but I'm obviously thinking that I need to try and just be what they want me to be or something. I really don't know. And then obviously it's goal orientated, right? So I obviously want something off these people and pretend to be what they want me to be to get it. But it's subconscious, I think. Is it? Is anything subconscious? Really? I think we all have a bit of a knowing, right? About our own deep-seated desires and what drives us. We don't like to admit it, but we all know. We all know we have that dark part as well. Yeah, so being so goal-oriented, I didn't recognize dangers. You're so focused. You don't see the peripheral, right? The danger coming from each side. And then this is where my hypervigilance stems from, the distrust in my own ability to read people. And I realise that I'm putting myself into dangerous situations, right? Because I'm not looking at what's coming. So then I just back off and go, you need to maybe slow down on putting yourself in these situations until you really figure it out, right? Or avoid those situations and go into another one. Pick something safer. I have been reclusive and shunned people. So this started in, I think about year 9. I had about 2 weeks where I just withdrew from my friends and I went and sat by myself all day, every day. I didn't talk to anyone in class. I sat by myself in my classes and I went and sat by myself at lunch and recess, and I didn't see anyone before or after school. I just did not want to talk to anyone. But I think this coincided with my red chair. I woke up one morning and my red wooden chair from my desk was sitting in the middle of my room, about 2 feet away from my bed, facing my bed. And I asked my mum if she'd been sitting in my room that night, and she said no. I know it was my uncle now, right? And it was a message to my mum. It was a message to me. God knows. But I'm pretty sure he must have done something, and that manifested as me withdrawing from my friend group. Because it wasn't anything to do with the friends. It was just I did not want to see anyone. And it was just like that. I just could not be around anyone at all. That was it. And then, year 7 was kind of the same. Like in year 6, I decided to go to a different high school because, so that in itself is kind of shunning your comfort zone and your friend group. There's more to that now though, because Campbell High is right next to Ainsley Village, CSIRO, War Memorial, ASIO, ADFA, Duntroon Jetty, Government House. Anyway, now I wonder if I did make that decision to go to Campbell or if I was kind of pushed somehow, one way or another, to be at Campbell High. It's a good place to monitor any kid in Canberra with all of those places around, if you are a possible psychopath in the making. And then in Perth with my ex, I did withdraw a few times. He worked away, but I did go through a few stages where I just kind of didn't go out and I stayed at home and just did my own thing and got really fat and ate lots of Costello and pear and red wine. Merlot. Clean skin. And then in Perth, after the meth, I withdrew for a while until I kind of got back on it again. And then in Canberra after Perth, totally withdrew for a long time. Work, and that was it, really. Work, home, Nan's house. That was it. Mossman, after I came from Canberra, I did end up going into this internal sort of withdrew again. I think a few different things triggered that now with friends and stuff, but and no sex or intimacy for 8 years. So that's withdrawing from any kind of close, romantic, interpersonal, loving relationship, right? Safety. It's just easier not to do it because I don't know how to. I'm very particular or OCD about certain things, but stupid things like what glass I need to use for certain alcohol. It's silly, but toilet paper rolling forward instead of under. Chopping veggies in a certain way. I've literally said to my friend before, don't chop the onions like that. Stir fry. Don't dice them. Slice them. Anyway, stuff like that. Little things. stupid things, but OCD about just weird things, right? Is that me trying to, I don't know what that is, seriously, control? I don't know. Is my intuition a figment of my imagination and is really just an extremely well-honed ability to sense changes in people and environment because of my hypervigilance, because of everything I've experienced and had to observe, and because I have to pretend to be someone I'm not? So I'm always on guard, trying to suss out how I have to be every second. I say things that have two meanings, right? But don't realize it until later. And is that my alter egos popping up in conversations with people? When you kind of realize you've said something to someone and it pertains to them, but you were honestly talking about somebody else. And I'm not doing this whole trying to make someone uncomfortable, right? I'm telling a story about someone else, but then later I'll be like, oh, that kind of refers to them in this situation. And then I'm like, did I say that by accident? And then I'm always like, did something else come up and like intervene and say that because it needed to be said to that person, even though I consciously wasn't aware I was saying it? Thinking this spiritual stuff, you know, and I'm like, no, it's my alter egos popping up. I'm a different person every second, I think. Oh, it's very strange, but now that makes sense too, right? Because I have done that forever. So I am uncertain of an existence now of a spirit or a soul. And I'm viewing everything from the perspective of the mind engineering its own reality based on experiences, environment, and external influences affecting my psychological development / programming, right? Obviously I don't have a soul, right? If you don't have a self, how can you have a soul? And I do think that maybe if that bad stuff happens to a kid, so much bad stuff, seriously, they're going to lose their soul. A soul can't handle that. Maybe a body and a mind can, but a soul can't. Anyway, is there even a soul? Are we just our experiences? The sum of our experiences and the external programming. Oh, it prickles all over my ass. So my personality was totally fabricated based on other people's mannerisms, behaviours and displays of emotion. And then, my goal orientation plays into my ADD. I'll be doing 10 things at once. And I've always said this, I do 10 things at once. And everyone says this, right? So be careful. I'm thinking now, if you're one of those people that does 10 things at once, you're not doing 10 things at once, right? You're doing one thing at a time and then getting sidetracked and doing another one, which is goal orientated. I do it all the time. I'll have something in this hand that I was doing 10 minutes ago and something in the other hand and juggling, doing something else. And I snap and I go, why am I holding that? Yeah, I was doing that, but put it down. And why have I got that in my hand? And then where did I put that thing, right? I think it's my alter egos going bang, bang, goal orientated too. It's like I get so distracted. It's like, oh, actually I was doing that. Bang, I'll do that. Then I see something and I go, oh no, actually I've got to do that. Bang, I'll do that. Then I'll see something else and go, oh no, I'll do that now. Bang, I do that. And then by a matter of time, I end up back close by where I started and I go, oh, that's right. I was doing that 10 things ago. But it's because I get focused on a goal each time. Totally. I see something and I just go, bang, I got to do it. I've still got stuff on my hand. There's stuff sitting there. I do it with the milk all the time. I boil the milk over because I get sidetracked with the fire. It's like a habit. I go, coffee, milk, on. I will just go put a couple of bits of wood on the fire and come back. I get sidetracked. Then I hear the milk going, I try and put the coffee on at the same time because they take about the same time and I can hear the coffee pot. Anyway, I'm trying to manage. But, yeah, and I've always been like that with my ADD. Always. And I got diagnosed with ADHD. I don't know. What's the difference? Hyper? Not? I don't know. So are empaths really just undiagnosed psychopaths? I don't know. I'm asking you. I never thought I would have even considered myself to be this kind of person, regardless of the fact of knowing everything I'd been through in my life, right? Well, I didn't know. But I knew there was stuff, bad stuff. And I knew there was a lot of bad stuff. Didn't know how bad. Didn't know how much. Okay? So I thought I was prepared. Would never have thought that anyone could ever classify me as a psychopath, that's for sure. Never, ever, if you had tried to tell me that, I would have said, that is impossible. You don't know how deeply I feel things. And I believed it, right? I thought I felt things very deeply. I was feeling not being able to feel. It's hard to put into words. But this time alone puts all your focus on your emptiness. So they say this dark night of the soul that people go through, and that you have to go through it on your own. A lot of the narcissist videos are like, you have to, no contact, cut everyone off. I did that naturally. It was a natural process for me to just cut people off as this whole event, train of circumstances transpired. It was natural for me to do that. It was the normal thing. Turn your back, done. Like, my brother said it to me about my ex. He's like, that's it, Ray. They get one chance and one chance only. That's it. He blew it. One chance, Ray. One chance only. And he's right. But for different reasons. Now, I understand. And then my depression that I thought was depression, right? Or what was presenting classically as depression was from never being able to fulfill the expectations that I thought people had on me. And that would automatically, in a normal setting, go back to, well, that's your low self-esteem. But really, all of this stuff stems back to trauma, right? Anyone who's got any issues is basically going to be like, well, something bad happened to you sometime and it's fucked up your way of thinking and you can't handle things like normal people. Some kind of trauma. A lot of you have been traumatized as kids. You don't even know it. You could have been traumatized just from your mum having postnatal depression and she couldn't breastfeed you or some shit, right? It could be that simple. It could be that you were the eldest and another kid came along too soon and you got shunned to the side and that was it. You were forgotten at a crucial time when you were bonding with your mother. I don't know. It can be tiny. As in, here's a trauma. Everyone's like, oh, it's got to be really bad. And this is the other thing, right? Everyone's walking around going, well, so many people have been traumatized worse than me. I shouldn't whinge about my own trauma. Do you even know your own trauma? Do you even know your own trauma? Do you know who you are? Do you really know who you are? And do you know who everyone around you is? I don't know who I am. And now I'm realizing if I never knew who I was, it's impossible that anybody else knew me. But the person I had portrayed myself as was not a psychopath, was not a narcissist, was an empath, was a healer, was generous, was compassionate, loved hanging out with kids. I've never wanted to molest a kid. I think it might be because I didn't have kids and maybe because I'm not a man. I don't know. I did have a counsellor tell me in my early 20s that I was allowed to fantasize about whatever I wanted as long as I didn't do it to anyone, because I used to have rape fantasies and stuff, right? And being a Catholic, you're like, that's wrong. It's very common. A lot of women fantasize about being overpowered, probably because we're all traumatized. So yeah, got off track again, but it's time to end. I just wanted to go through that list because this is what I'm doing now. I'm kind of looking at these things and going, okay, if it is possible that I'm a psychopath, and it is because I tick all the boxes for the childhood way more than what your average person probably would. And I've been through this process, had my soul death, whatever. And now I feel completely free and liberated, but very lacking in feelings and very different to the person I felt like before. And I think spending the 6 months on my own has, like they say, you stare into the abyss and the abyss gazes back into you. But I think that's what happens when you are on your own and you're empty inside and you don't actually have anything. There's only so much you can be with yourself, and eventually it becomes unbearable and you do die because you can't handle it. You can't handle being stuck inside a body that's empty and devoid of anything, good or bad. It all feels bad because being stuck with nothingness feels really bad. And when you're on your own with it and you can't escape it because it's in your head and it's this all-consuming emptiness and there's no meaning to anything and you can't understand anything. You just can't understand. And that's what I got stuck in some of the times, just crying and crying, but just going, I don't understand, I don't understand, I don't understand, I don't understand. Because I don't. I don't understand anyone or anything about people, and you have to live with people. We're community-based, like species. We actually are supposed to have company. So where does that leave people like me? If it's part of your natural genetic instinct to actually be in part of a group of people and interact with them, and you've been trained not to, what are you supposed to do as a human then? That's what I mean. Like, why bother being here? What's the point of me being here if I've been trained to not be able to be with people? And I'm incapable of being around people. Possibly not even safe to be around people. Yeah. So I guess I'm lucky I've got the bush and animals. You can hear the rosellas. Yeah. Anyway, it's just something to think about because, like I said, anyone that knew me would not have thought that I could possibly be this way. I never thought I could possibly be this way. And if I hadn't been through this experience, I'd still be fluffing along, doing exactly what I'd been doing and not realising that I could possibly be a psychopath or something very similar. So just have a think about it. I mean, self-reflect. The videos he does is really good. I've only seen a couple, but they're very short and he talks real fast. It's real quick and he's got little pictures. Yeah, so I don't know if you're interested in it anyway. Just if you have had any kind of if you do know that you had trauma when you were a kid, then definitely look into this. But if you feel like you maybe had some trauma, or if you feel that any of those things resonate with you, you maybe want to look inside. Maybe you won't. I've got time. I have no family and friends, no children, no house, no job. All I've got is time now, and that's all I've had for like 6 months. It's hard to do this delving in, I guess, when you have all these other things distracting you, and when you have downtime, you don't want to do this. You want to relax and switch off and recharge. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a good thing for you to be on your own now, if this is what happens as well. I don't know. I can't give anyone any advice. All I know is that this is what I'm going through, and my life's been pretty hell, but it's very similar to a lot of people I knew, and I'm sure that you know people out there that are like me. So, I don't know. Just, yeah, be aware. Not beware, but be aware that the really nice people, the empaths that are really strongly feeling other people's emotions all the time, it could possibly be that they're kind of psychopathic in that they're so displaced or they have no emotions of their own inside, and they're feeling everybody else's, but they're not actually feeling everybody else's. They're just trying to judge everybody else's and act accordingly. And I think maybe sometimes associating with their trauma instead or something. Yeah, maybe even just people that go into professions that are supposed to help people could possibly be a bit like this, in that they're like, if I do that noble profession, no one's going to suspect that I am actually void of personality and feelings and emotions. And then I can see why a lot of them would be like company directors and that, of really, earning lots of money. I mean, you could hone your skills in any kind of environment, I suppose, if you could see that it was going to be lucrative, or if someone was going to be of service, I guess. I don't know. It's a very strange place to be in now. I do see people like that now, though, because I've spent so much time on my own. It's like, if I need someone for something, but past that, I really don't have much patience. I can't help it. I just don't have much tolerance for people, their life, what they've been through, what they want to say. A lot of people just want to talk about themselves so they can connect with you, but I'm like, I can't connect with you. I don't care. I literally don't care. I read people's texts and I try to be polite. And then I delete the politeness and I just leave it at what it is, but I don't care. I'll read something that maybe used to affect me, or what I thought affected me, and I just don't care. I just don't care. I don't care about anyone. And it feels really good. I've spent my whole life trying to pretend like I cared about people, and now I can just say, I don't give a fuck about anyone. And it feels good. It feels really good. I just feel at peace. I don't feel happy, I just feel, this is good. This is how it should be. Yeah. Alone. With the animals in nature. So think about it, I don't know. Just bouncing it out there. I don't know what I am. I don't think I can be classified, to tell you the truth. I think there's just some people have been through so much stuff that it's unclassifiable. We'll just say that you've really, really, really fucked up from a lot of really, really, really bad stuff. From a lot of really, really, really bad people. Politicians don't do that stuff. Yeah, they do. Police don't do that. Yep, they do. Military don't. Yeah, they do. Priests don't. Yep, they do. School teachers. Oh, yep, they do too. Babysitters don't. Yes. Babysitters especially do. Anyway. I hope you're all feeling good about yourselves and your best friends that you think you know, who are really kind and generous and empathetic. Just think about it and maybe start to look at them. Look, if you really think someone's a psycho, you can study this shit easily and test them. You'll be able to figure it out. I have. I think the people that knew me would probably be figuring this out now with me explaining these things, surely. They can't deny it. They've known me for a long time. They can't deny this stuff. They can't deny that this is me. So they all might be having a bit of cognitive dissonance. So, if you guys who used to know me or my family or anything are having cognitive dissonance, how the fuck do you think I felt going through this? And having to realise that I'm nothing and no one and never have been. But having to realise it the hard way, I didn't have any of this information. I just thought I was dying slowly, very, very slowly, and wondering why I couldn't be released. So I'm still here, but I kind of have been released. I've been released of whatever was giving a shit. Or pretending to give a shit, right? It's fucked up.